I'm in my office this morning, still trying to work out the routine for the trash TV show. You know, what magic will come first, what will come second. One of the things I learned early on as a young magician, because I'm dyslexic, I reverse letters and numbers, was that learning your craft the best you possibly could was really important, even if that learning was a challenge. Reading for me has always been really, really difficult, but I learned to just simply deal with the challenges of reversing letters and numbers, and became a fairly competent reader. Over the years, I've developed, collected a pretty nice collection of magic literature, you know, books filled with magic and filled with magic theory. When I was a kid, one of my favorite magic books was the Mark Wilson Course in Magic. Got to meet him a couple of years ago. Super nice man. In fact, have an autograph. He and his wife, Nandi Darnell, autographed some of their promo from their Land of Alakazam magic show. That was back in the 1950s. He and she were real pioneers in the world of television magic. So doing a little bit of research, this is a book by Jay Marshall, reading through there. You can never tell, even if you've read a magic book before, I don't believe you can ever tell when you might be able to learn something new, because you're coming at new information with a lot of old information that seems to cross-pollinate. The same thing is true with this book by Dick and Virginia Williams. I bought this several years ago and got to speak with Dick, and he was really, really helpful in sharing information about what it took to do a television show in Memphis. There's probably no magician in my age range, sort of 40, 56 years old, that was not affected in a really strong way by Doug Henning. Doug Henning just sort of he reimagined what a magician was supposed to look like, what a magician was supposed to be, and he largely was able to translate that onto television. Even Penn and Teller exist as a response to, they didn't like what Doug Henning was about, and they said, no, that's not what magic should be. It should be this. Nonetheless, they put their stamp on it in a new and different way. This is a book I've been reading recently. I'm a huge fan of the English magician David Berglas. He is an extraordinary thinker of magic and mental magic in particular. But of all of the writers, the guy that is my most favorite is Jim Steinmeyer. Jim Steinmeyer, I got to meet him and have lunch with him relatively recently. And Jim Steinmeyer, he is a very fine author, and he's an incredibly good magic and illusion creator. And he is just the guy as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, got to hang out with him, buy him some lunch, and we just had a really terrific time. Any time I can spend with Jim Steinmeyer, even if it's in the form of a book that he's written, I'm really, really happy to do that. Jim and I share some things. We lost our dad early in our life. I was 14 when my father passed away. And this you see this old and tattered book. It's called The World's Greatest Magic. My father passed away very suddenly. See how beat up this book is. My father passed away very suddenly, and I'm not even sure what the impact was, but I know for a fact that I was actually reading this particular book the night that my father passed. And I know for a fact that I was actually reading about Siegfried and Roy. I was just riveted by what they did in this magic trick called metamorphosis, which I actually learned and performed later in my career. Like I said, my dad passed away very suddenly. It was very no warning. And so one night I'm sitting here reading this book, and he pops his head in and he says, good night, Bubba. And I didn't even look up. I just said, good night, Daddy. And the next morning he was gone. So I never really know how much of my magical career is being driven by that. And so we see if we can, live up to that idea that we started being a part of the world's greatest.